Salutation shades, and welcome back to your one-stop shop for all things strange and unusual, talking with shadows. The conversation everyone has, but no one wants to admit to. Here with your host, Vic Whaley.
And Marcus D. And if you are joining us on Patreon, you probably have noticed the screen looks way worse than normal. That is because we are streaming, I guess, live at this point. Well, not really live.
Okay, it's live to us, but it won't be by the time you're
streaming in the
watching
studio with video. Hi, patrons. How's it going? How's everybody? How's everybody doing here in the One Candle Bunker? And if also, too, we are joined today by a guest in the studio today. Now, she doesn't want to go by her regular name, so we're going to give her a pen name, too. And you wanted to go with, what was it?
Mothmomma.
Mothmomma. Mothmomma, welcome to the One Candle Studio. Thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and I'm jumping right into drinking something because I just got off work and the setup took an extra 45 minutes to add a video component to this.
What are you going to drink?
I'm going to be drinking this wonderful vintage Dr. Pepper and cream soda, zero sugar.
I'm drinking one of those too, but I'm going to... I did knock out a new mead. I called it 12 Labors because it's strong and it's a little hard to drink. It was not an A+ mead. But someone's got to drink it, so here we go.
Mothmomma, with me, can we offer you a beverage for coming down to the One Candle Bunker?
I think I'll stick to my H2O.
Yeah. Like, I'm looking at the video right now for how this looks like we have kidnapped you. Can you just say it for the record that we have not kidnapped you?
Please tell the audience we have not taken you against your will.
Yeah, you are not hostage.
Help now.
Oh, great. Here comes the cops.
Oh, man. And I didn't know that we were recording. I didn't know that we were recording either, like, on video. Well, sorry, I did, but I forgot. And then when I got down, I'm wearing, like, my work clothes. So... for those of you that are not watching online, I'm wearing like a dress shirt and khakis. I look like a district manager that's getting ready to fire Vic.
I'm gonna need you to come in this weekend.
Like we're just, it's just not working out. We're just gonna have to promote you to customer.
Also, as far as the bar, for those of you who can see it, it's a work in progress. It is not yet done.
So absolutely, and comment below if you're patrons. Let us know if you guys like this setup that you're seeing here with the bar scene to let us know. But what we'll do is we'll go over a couple quick comments, and then we'll get into why we brought Mothmomma into the studio today. And so if you didn't check out our last episode, we covered the Jersey Devil itself. Yes, the big cryptid from New Jersey. And so if you have not checked that episode out, please go over and check that episode out. It's probably one of my favorite cryptid episodes that we got into. So comments from that. Whiskey Conspiracies says, dang it, Vic, you don't the Jersey Devil.
Wait, what?
If it looks friendly, you want to go explore. You want to explore that option. Come on, guy. Lore Dive was great. Love the breakdown. Totally down for a meetup and dive on any topic.
Okay, I know what he's talking about now. It was a statement of, like, if I had the chance to attempt to communicate with it, would I give it a shot? And yes, I stand by it. I would take the swing and probably die in the process. But I'm going to take the swing.
I think there was a scene in Independence Day in the first movie where a bunch of people in Independence Day when they attempted to communicate with the aliens. I don't know if you saw that documentary. It didn't go quite well for those people.
Well.
Yeah, no, it did not. So Jay the Phoenix said, "Yes, today is a good day. Congratulations on your news, guys, that we had shared." I did. I think in that episode I finally shared with the listeners that me and my wife are in the process of adopting. And I think Vic said something irrelevant. I don't know what it was. I don't, whatever it was. I was like, top that, Vic. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm almost done with massage school. I
Yeah, I think
guess
it's what it was,
it's
yeah.
like I can't top it. It's just such good news.
So, and then finally, I Am Sfeel said, yes, the New Jersey Devil. I remember that this one of the first cryptids I learned about thanks to the old Lost Tapes TV show. That was a good TV show. Mm-hmm. Not sure a 11-year-old should have been watching that or Monster Quest, but hey, it got me here.
Loved Monster Quest. It was one of my favorite shows ever. Absolutely adored it.
For me, it was Twilight Zone. I think it was Twilight Zone was what really got me into like looking into really weird stuff.
Oh, it's not what got me into it. I just really liked it.
Fair.
I think growing up in a very strange small town got me into it.
But okay, so if you haven't checked that episode, absolutely go do that. But Mothmomma, welcome to the studio today.
Thank you so
we
much.
We are super excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're kicking around some ideas for some topics to bring up, and I know that in the past we have dabbled into the big tuna known as Mothman. That's a doozy. That's a big one. That's a big one. And then Vic told me about this really cool person that he knows from their massage therapy school. And I was like probably the only person that nobody's mentioned that with him.
Basically, in class, we all have to get to know each other. We're going to be, work on each other's bodies. And in one of the sharing circles that we have from time to time.
In class, we're going to be working on each other's bodies. Was that how they recruited you into massage?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
We're going to be working on each other's bodies today.
But like I do podcasting, and people are like, well, what do you podcast on? And I give the response I always give: weird stuff.
The weirdest stuff you could possibly imagine.
So at one point, I'm walking into the building, and Mothmomma is like, hey, I've got a story for you. And I'm like, story? I'm in. Now, it's taken us a while to get this put together, though. But I'm very glad that we're finally having this conversation because Mothmomma has seen something, and it's something I've never seen. I know Marcus has never seen.
I have never seen it.
And a lot of people don't get a chance to have this specific sort of sighting.
Yeah. And I always love it when we realize, because Mama, when me and Vic started this, we came up with pen names because we thought we were going to be cool. We thought it sounded cool at the time.
Well, you guys are.
Thank you.
That might be the best compliment ever.
Thank you for lying to us. We appreciate that so much. But we were worried about how people were going to respond to us, diving into the paranormal, because sometimes, we were afraid we might get some weird looks. And then what we just found out, everybody's interested. I can't just turn it into, let me tell you a story.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Even the most skeptical person you meet will be like, oh, no, none of that's real. But this one time.
Yes. Exactly.
Mama, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? Maybe would you consider yourself a believer? How did you get started in the interest in the paranormal, or did it take an interest in you? Give us a little bit of background on you.
Probably when this all started, probably in 2009, 2010, and I have a son. Right after he graduated high school, I started seeing sequences of numbers, and actually it took me 2 years to look into that because it freaked me out so bad.
So when you say you saw, because I have no context for your story, by the way. Vic just said you're bringing him in. I'm like, boom, bring him in the studio. So when you say
a lot of stories.
So when you said began seeing a sequence of numbers, break that down for me a little bit more about what you mean.
I started seeing 444 everywhere.
Like just floating like the old Ghost Rider TV show. Like that's an old show, by the way.
On television, on clocks, and I thought, it's just a coincidence.
Like glowing, or it's just popping out at you?
Popping out.
Marcus, have you never heard of a synchronicity before? Where
had neither before.
Hang on, Mothmomma, I need to chastise I'm having her explain it to the people that don't know, Vic. We went over this when we began. Some people don't know this shit.
Okay, shots fired. I got it.
I apologize, Mothmomma, for Vic's. I apologize for
No problem.
for Vic's interruption there. You go. So you said it just popped out to you, like it just drew your attention to it.
It did, and I ignored it. And then me and my son was driving somewhere one day, and I said, "Did you find out your dorm room number?" And he said, "Yeah." And guess what it was?
444. That's
Yeah,
cool. How
and
many
then
4s?
3.
That's interesting.
And they took a picture of me in his dorm room, and guess what was by my head?
What?
An orb.
That's neat.
And I should have brought that picture, and I did not. I'll bring it next time, if I'm on here again. But that is exactly, it just exploded from there. I could tell you some very odd stories that I've seen that number. And that's what kind of exploded. I mean, the orbs, I'd taken several videos.
Do you know what color the orb was when you saw it?
Well, in the picture,
Right.
it was white.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I have some on my phone.
Yeah, I remember that you were
Recent
showing. Yeah.
ones, yeah, pink and all that.
Neat. How big was it, would you say, compared to your head, like in the photograph?
It was a small one. It's I showed Alec.
It's okay. It's okay.
I showed Vic the picture, and it's right here. It's just a little bitty orb right here. It's more solid white, and right here the little shaded in area. But
Really neat.
yeah, he's seen it. I'll bring it in. I should have brought it, and I never even thought about it.
Just so you guys know, we actually are waiting to get Mothmomma on for a later one where we're here with Ricky Bruckman to analyze some of the amazing pictures that she has, because you have some that are pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Very cool stuff.
So would you say you're the sort of person that you're almost like a magnet sometimes for some of these strange occurrences?
I am, because I feel like I'm way, way too open. Like, I'm like, I want it to. I want to see this stuff. And it scares me, but it's kind of exciting, too.
That is
absolutely.
a good way to look
Yeah.
at
That's
paranormal.
yes.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm probably the more reserved individual between me and Vic when it comes to that. But when you have one of those types of experiences, like it, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I got a lot of stories for you. I got a bunch of stuff.
So
that's what opened the door.
So I want to ask a couple things as far as about the synchronicity with the number 4. And you said that was around 2009, 2010 with your son going to college.
Yes.
How was his experience in college, at that college?
It was great.
Okay, it was good?
Yeah.
Okay.
He met his wife right now there. And, it was a really great experience.
Okay. What about you yourself?
It was horrible.
Oh. We went to the other end of the spectrum.
And
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at that. It's a quick turn.
I've actually thought about that sometimes because he was the only child. And I don't know, maybe they came to me to my angels, I call them. Because that's what 444 means. You're surrounded by angels at that time.
Yeah, as a thing of safety, yeah.
Yeah.
That I actually have not heard before. What's that from?
So like I was sitting that down there because I know that there's a whole thing of numerology.
Yeah.
I think around that. So I was good because 4 was outside. I don't know about the number 4. And I'm like, so I'm seeing things coming up, everything from reminding you that you're safe. It represents the building blocks of our physical world. That's some of the stuff that seems to be just be coming up off the top. It seems to be repeating itself over and over and over.
Okay, that's fascinating. Like, I know a little bit of numerology. Like, I've read some of John Dee's work on it, like 5 years ago. But, like, I don't know well enough to recall it to the top of my head.
I'm seeing justice, calmness, solidity. And so it seems to be a positive note. It seems to be when I'm as I'm going through this. So it was interesting that you were seeing that, and your son has a major life experience, and that's why I asked how it was because you said it was positive for him.
It was very positive. I think the universe knew I would be heartbroken, and I was for about 3 years, and finally it got better. But yeah.
So was this a message that actually helped you get through that period of life for you?
Absolutely. I felt like there is something out there. There's people, spirits looking after you.
Love that.
I don't know. Family members that passed. Guardian angels, I don't know.
Now, you have seen something that we probably couldn't necessarily subscribe to being a guardian angel, though.
No. To some, maybe.
Maybe to some. But I was wondering if maybe you could tell us a little bit about that incident.
Absolutely. In the fall of 2020, and this was at the cusp of COVID, and it was everybody was staying home, you know, and I came home from work, and I know everybody might be asking, were you drinking? I always have a Jack and Coke if I go out in my hot tub.
Which is not known for causing hallucinations.
No, and
No.
didn't even drink the whole thing before all this happened. So I usually take my dog out there, which I did, fenced him in, got in the tub, and I usually sit on the northeast side of the four corners, always. Okay. I have neighbors with upstairs, and, you know, I just want my back towards them. It was dark. And I always have my AirPods in my ear. I didn't hear anything. But I looked up in the sky. I've seen falling stars, of course, airplanes, every time I'm sitting there. Okay, so I'm relaxing, jets on, looking up in the sky. And mind you, my garage sits on the north side, so my garage is right there. I looked up, and I thought it was a hand glide or a small plane, like a little bitty small plane, like a one that sprays the fields or whatever. That's how large the wingspan was. And I was like, okay, one, it's dark and there's power lines there. They're gonna hit that. And then I thought it's too late for anybody to look at crops, and why are they in the middle of town? It did make no sense. So I turned around to where I knew it had to go, whatever it was, and right in between my house and the next door neighbor's house, it stopped, and it was the Mothman, or it was exactly, he was stationary, and his wings were like that, and his feet were curled like this when he was just, and why in the middle of town? I don't know, but it was not a droid, or it wasn't a
drone.
No, somebody said, "Oh, a drone." I was like, no, this thing was.
So you're in your bathtub, or sorry, bathtub, your
hot
tub.
Yeah.
And you're seeing this land on your neighbor's house.
No, it didn't land. I seen it start over here. It would be north. And the thoughts went through my head, and it flew, because I knew it had to go by because there was nowhere else to go. And it stopped mid-flight. It didn't land anywhere, and I did not see any eyes, no red eyes. It was the back of it. And it was just stationary. And I remember it was just slow motion to me. The wings and the feet were up like this, you know. It wasn't down. And it was gray because, like I mentioned earlier, I watch a lot of ID channel, and I was trying to take note, but I was scared. I just wanted to get out and before my dog barked or anything and get in the house, and that's what I did.
Was there any sound associated with it? Like, could you hear anything?
I had my earbuds in.
Oh, that's
and
right.
If I had to turn time around, I would have took those earbuds out and I would have recorded, and I would have recorded. I don't know why, but it freaked me out because it's not normal. That's not normal.
And I'm always very hard on the people who cast that "why didn't you record it" sort of thing. You're not in that mindset because when you see something shocking, you're in a survival mindset, or a nod to like what we've been saying in class. You're in a sympathetic state. You're sympathetic nerves. Yeah,
Absolutely.
You're in a fight or flight survival mode, and you're not going to be like, "Oh, I should use this gadget and that gadget." No, you're like, "What am I looking at? Do I need to run?"
But the thing of it is too, if I did that and it turned around,
Mm-hmm.
would it target my house? Or, like, I want to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I have to admit, I'm not out that hot tub as much as I used to be. I'm serious.
No, I get it. I 100% get. I 100% get it. So, oh, wow, I have so many questions. Okay, so you said
There are like engaging with Mothman. If you did do something to draw it in, there are things that happen. Are you familiar with the curse of the Mothman?
Yeah, I've watched several. Even before this, I'm obsessed with, like, Terror in the Woods. I've watched those shows like 50 bazillion times, but yeah, I don't know. And I want to know why it was in the middle of Davis County. Why? Why was it right there in the middle of town?
What's your theory on that?
So,
Well,
do you say Davis County, or are you talking about Evansville when you saw it?
no,
The Owensboro?
no.
Mothmomma lives a little ways away.
How about this? Oh, Davies,
Yeah.
Indiana. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You do live a ways away. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
I do have a theory, and that's why I mentioned the COVID, is because all this, they say he comes, well, just like West Virginia
Right.
with the bridge.
Right.
That's my theory. It looked like it was just looking at the city, just, you know what I'm saying? Just flapping, looking. And when you look over there, there is kind of goth buildings and stuff, but that would make no difference. But anyway, I really do think it was because it was just, what's the word I'm looking for?
Foretelling?
Prophetic.
Yeah. It was just, everything was a mess. And I think maybe he came through I don't know what your theory is, but I mean, he'd have to come through a portal or something.
Like, so, well, what I'm stuck on is this detail of it, like, flapping its wings while it's just standing there, because that's not normal. Like, hummingbirds can do that because they're literally, like, moving.
He
like,
was stationary.
It's buzzing.
Nothing about the Mothman makes biological sense.
Right.
Like, even when you describe the wings, you kind of describe them a little bigger than most people, which makes it make a little more biological sense, but it still would need to be way bigger than that.
Yeah.
Like, Mothman, I 100% do not believe is a natural biological entity, because no normal biological rules apply to it. Like, even just look at the shape of the body. You have arms, you have legs, you have wings. The thing has a mammalian body structure, and it seems to have mammalian skeletal structure. And no mammal has that set of appendages of arms, wings, and legs.
Yeah, his legs separated. He had two legs.
Did you see the feet?
Yeah, but they were curled under, but I didn't see no toes or anything.
Okay.
And I wasn't, like, I was more paying attention to the wings, and they were like this. They were pointed, more like a bat, you know? And he was gray. He wasn't black. And I know most people's going, oh, it's been 3 years ago, but I sent an email actually a couple of years ago to somebody that never replied to say that I seen that. But anyway.
Yeah, I think you told me about it. It was the guy who wrote the Winged Humanoids book, right?
Tobias. This guy's name's Tobias.
I think we've actually done some of his books before on the podcast.
I think we have too.
Yeah. And maybe his email changed. I don't know, but I never did hear anything back.
What were your instincts in that moment? Like, what was your inside telling you?
Holy shit! I can't believe I'm seeing this right now. And I wanted to flee. I wanted to get out. That's what.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and like I said, oh my gosh, if I could have just got one single shot, and it was so close, and I didn't. I mean.
Did you have any psychological fallout from this? Because, like I said, I've been going over Mothman prophecies, and one of the things John Kill talks about is a lot of people, after seeing Mothman, have this psychological fallout for quite some time afterwards. What was your experience like?
Well, I didn't see his eyes either, and they say because I read into that too, if he stares at you, that you can read his thoughts. My psychological, I wouldn't necessarily call it torture, but I have 2 octagon and 1 diamond windows. I put film on all those.
Oh, sure.
I covered them, and if I take my dog out at night, don't think I'm not like this. anywhere at night. I'm looking up in the sky to make sure that nothing's gonna.
That's a really interesting natural response, because to cover up the windows, by covering up the windows, you're specifically targeting the ability to be viewed.
Absolutely,
So it's
yeah.
like almost a instinctual desire to break, even though you didn't see the eyes. It's almost like an instinctual response to keep a break between you and the eyes.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, particularly the people who are close enough to get a good look at the eyes often have major medical issues afterwards. One of the most common ones is a form of conjunctivitis that's associated with very intense radiation or sunbeams. The other interesting thing is this is not necessarily uncommon. Like, this isn't the first time I've heard of this sort of response in the paranormal. Like, for example, I've heard of this in association with people who've encountered Bigfoot sightings. Another odd thing is, like, my mother always had a very peculiar fear of laying on the couch and being viewed through the couch window by a hairy humanoid. Like, she said, like a Bigfoot sort of creature. My mom didn't believe in any of this sort of stuff, but she had that one very specific fear to where she told me many times she almost covered that window. And oddly enough, I had the exact same fear about the exact same window. I don't know why, but that instinct to break eye contact, I definitely understand well, and is extremely interesting, especially when it comes to Mothman.
Yeah. That is very odd that I covered my windows and you're talking about the same
Like,
thing. Yeah.
do you think that it's like a predatory thing? Like, we were trying, like, because you'll see people that'll like try to intimidate you, and then you'll break eye contact. We've seen that before, like when we worked at the hospital.
Yeah.
Or if you're dealing with a very bully individual, people will break eye contact to avoid looking at them directly.
But
do you think this is just ramped up?
Okay, that's a really interesting question, because humans we don't have a real strong prey instinct, because we're basically alpha predators in our own way.
Right.
Certain things do trigger that sort of prey response. Like, this is a kind of a little bit of a synchronicity since we're talking about Mothman, and Mothman during the time of Point Pleasant was occasionally called the Big Bird.
Right.
We do have a prey instinct in response to being in the presence of very large avians. Scientists believe that's because of, at one point in time, there were terror birds that were apex predators at the same time as humans, and a terror bird definitely could kill a human.
Right.
So people attribute it to that, but like humans, we don't have the biggest like prey instincts, just because most of our biological history, we're kind of just winning.
But it still has a humanoid body type shape.
That's
what
true.
I'm saying. So, and that's still a behavior people will do with other people.
Oh, yes.
So I was just curious about that. Also, by the way, one of the things I was trying to look up when I was over here I was like, because I knew for a fact that there have been other sightings of Mothman in this area, and you described it as gray, and I'm like, I know for a fact that, because Vic said I know that there have been people that have reported that. So I looked. There's actually been accounts of Mothman sightings in both Gary, Indiana, and the Chicago area.
When I Googled
within the last 20 years.
Mothman, it took me directly to Chicago every time, and I was talking to Vic about that.
Yep.
Well, when you put humanoid,
Right.
that's when you come up with the Indiana, and that's what I was showing him on my phone, and I sent it to myself because that's what it looked like. It had two legs with
Right.
the huge. That's exactly what I seen.
Because I can't for the life of me I can find descriptions of the Chicago ones, and there are some that are reported as gray. I'm trying to find a description of the Gary, Indiana gargoyle that was seen that a lot of people attribute to Mothman.
Yeah.
I would bet money that it's gray, because I really think that's the color that it is.
If my memory, if I didn't write that down, I would for sure tell you it was black.
Yeah.
But I remember taking notes. Here's that the article.
Oh, is it from the one from Gary or the one from Chicago?
No, from Gary. This one.
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that article before too.
But that was from a reservoir,
Mm-hmm.
I think. But yeah, it was gray because I was taking mental notes before I hightailed it out of there.
And even like during the Mothman events in Point Pleasant, there were people who reported as being gray. There were people who reported as being black. And there were even a handful that reported as being more of a brownish color.
Yeah.
Never really had a
if it
real
wasn't that, I was going to say it was
consistent
brown.
description.
Yeah. For what it was.
This, although, is not the only Mothman flap here in Evansville I've heard of. Well, although yours wasn't quite in Evansville. And Marcus, maybe you can help me a bit on the dating here. About what dates were we in college? Because I always tell people, when you're in the paranormal, always keep a journal. And this was something that happened before I started keeping a journal. Now I journal everything.
Yes.
It would be between when we were together, when we were living together, or before. Is it maybe between 2005 and
This
and
would have
2010?
been when we lived in Eagle Village, and it would have been the later part of our time at college.
Okay, so that would be
I'm bad at dates.
No, it's all good. So that would be 06, and then I moved off. So that'd be 07. So this would be 08 to between 08 to 09.
Okay, like I said, I wasn't keeping journals at the time, which I really regret. But there was
Between
a short
08
period
to
of time
10, yeah.
in the fall where I was tracking a series of sightings of the Mothman that was around the west side of Evansville.
Really?
Yes, we were basically, me and a few other people were looking into this. We had found a few accounts and we started putting out feelers for it. And surprisingly enough, we started to get stuff back. We were going to areas where, because a lot of times, like, we were able to talk directly with the person. They'd be like, I saw it in that tree right there. We'd examine the tree and we'd find burn marks in the trees. Like, that's
Oh,
one of the
really?
most consistent things that we found were burn marks in the trees at that time. We tracked down through 4 different sightings, studied the areas thoroughly as we could, but eventually, as most flaps happen, they mysteriously end as mysteriously as they began. So I can give you at least a confirmation that this isn't the only time Mothman has been spotted in this area. But unfortunately, I can't give you any decisive conclusion to the why or what.
Right.
That's the unfortunate thing about researching the paranormal. You have to be ready to not get a conclusive answer.
You know, and it wasn't late at night either. You know, it was probably 10 o'clock. Wasn't like 2 in the morning or anything either. It was early in the evening.
I think it's very interesting that the eyes weren't present. I guess it would be mainly an effect of moving away from it.
So my question, I guess the question that I have is a lot of people will associate seeing the Mothman as a prophetic sign for something.
Yeah,
and
I
so
was-
you saw it right pre-COVID. Do you think that it was something for you? Do you think that it was something for the area? Do you think that it was just,
You know,
that's where it's at?
I kept on watching or listening for something really bad to happen to my town or city or whatever, and nothing did. So I just assumed it was COVID, you know. Other than that, I mean,
And
I
this
don't
would have
know.
been early on because I think it was in the fall that COVID hit Evansville because we were both working in the hospital at the time when COVID first hit.
Sure. Yeah.
And I wanna say it was
Oh, do I remember that?
Oh, yeah, we got COVID multiple times in a very short
I was one of the
period.
first people to get COVID at our hospital we were working at. I think I was number 2.
oh my God.
Yeah, I took the test just as a precaution because I was going to go be near my parents who are both diabetic. And I just, next thing they're like, positive test, Marcus. And I'm like, well, damn.
And guess who was the first person he gave it to?
You.
Yeah, sure did. But yeah, I remember that time period fairly well, and things got pretty chaotic here pretty fast. I mean, it was a very scary time because, I mean, Indiana got it back when we were still kind of figuring out the very basics of COVID.
Yeah.
Like, there were lots of rumors going on. I heard a rumor that if you were A positive, you couldn't get it.
Yeah, I remember that. the
I'm
blood
pretty
test.
sure that it was wrong, but people were saying it.
Is that something that you believe in? Do you think that it's a prophetic thing? Do you think the Mothman just gets blamed for a bunch of stuff? Do you think there's a connection with that? I want to know what you think, Mothmomma.
I don't know if I have an opinion or not. Maybe because, I mean, considering West Virginia and the bridge and then COVID, those are big things. But I mean, there's sightings that people never said there was anything
Right.
going on either. So I don't know, you know, I mean, I don't know how to answer that. It's kind of like I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if there's I don't think there's a wrong answer to that. I think it's a fun just topic
Yeah.
when you're discussing the Mothman because a lot of people throw that around that they think that, or Vic brought up the curse of the curse of the Mothman, or and some things like that. So I was definitely curious what you thought, what your thoughts on that were.
Well, I mean, that's the first thing I thought of was COVID, and other than that, but like I said, there's other sightings too that nothing extreme is going on. So,
kind of in a similar vein, and I've recently realized another connection. Mark, you probably noticed that here in the last year or so, I've been drawing more connections between Mothman and Bargeist. And
Correct.
Mothman, if you're not familiar with Bargeist, just strange spectral black dogs with the same sort of red glowing eyes.
Like Sirius Black from Harry Potter.
yeah.
Not like,
Spooky.
okay.
Spooky.
I mean, sorry, not people turning into them, but like essentially that minus if it was a person. Sorry, we'll do that.
I recently found out something. During the Point Pleasant Mothman flap, there was also a series of sightings of Bargeist, the Point Pleasant black dog. There are only a few strong accounts, but there's several more just kind of general sightings of it. Once again, popping up in the same sort of area, that same sort of dark color, people reporting that same sort of ominous feeling around it and the red glowing eyes. And also, Bargeists are generally considered to be a prophet of misfortune. I really feel like everything that I look into points to there is a connection between Mothman and these strange black dogs. Even if we're just looking superficially, visually they're very similar. Where they show up are very similar. I feel like there has to be a connection somewhere in there.
You want to say something?
Well, I remember taking the bus tour in Point Pleasant when I was down there last August. And didn't they say a town over had a sighting of a totally different humanoid?
There were several strange sightings at the same time as Mothman. There were UFO sightings. There was, of course, Indrid Cold. There were the Bargeist sightings, and I think there was like one other. Oh, and there was a series of just also abnormally large birds.
And Men in Black too.
Oh yeah, and Men in Black.
Oh,
There were a
yes,
lot of
yes.
things that popped up
Yeah.
at the same time Mothman did.
Yeah, I remember them talking about that on the bus. And actually, I think it was just the town over. And actually, it might have been the birds, but I can't really remember. And I didn't even know that, it happened at the same time.
There were two really big, strange bird sightings that were fairly famous during that time period. One was in Pennsylvania in a nearby town, and one was in West Virginia. And although they both were describing slightly different birds, they were clearly not describing the exact same thing. They were definitely anomalously big and showing anomalous behavior. And before you say probably that sandhill crane everyone's talking about, no,
Look.
none of them.
I'm pulling it up right as Vic is bringing it up.
None of them looked like the sandhill crane. The sandhill crane has a very distinctive, specific appearance.
That's a big effing bird, by the way.
I know,
That's
but I've heard them say, it's probably this or that. But.
And Keel went to visit both locations with a picture of the sandhill crane, showed it to them, and they're like, no, it didn't look like that. It looked like what I told you it looked like. It didn't look like this very clearly different bird.
or it's the great, or if it's not the sandhill crane, it's the
Great
great horned
horned
owl. That they describe it
that's
as.
another good one.
Which also, there's a strong case for it. I'm just saying, bright yellow eyes, giant wingspan, talony feet.
Yeah.
Weird moving head.
That's what they were saying, drones. I was like, no.
No,
it wasn't
no.
a drone.
No.
And if you step outside like a very strict time period, you also have like the Flatwoods Monster occurred not that terribly far from there.
No, it wasn't that far. Well, a lot of people around that time just think West Virginia's cursed, but everywhere is cursed, but if you just
Maybe the
think about it.
aliens were just seeing what we'd freak out about the most.
Maybe.
They're just shooting an image of it in the sky just to screw with us. I have thrown that theory out a lot. That
you have.
Maybe this stuff is just alien kids just messing with us
I
either,
know.
or they're just releasing their pets out into the world.
I never thought about that. That's probably true.
We're just some sort of science experiment for some 8th grade aliens being getting a silver ribbon.
Yeah.
Okay, Mothmomma, I want to throw out a name, and I want to see what your thoughts are.
Okay.
Indrid Cold.
Indrid Cold.
Are you familiar with them? Okay.
So.
Woodrow Derenberger at the same and I might be mispronouncing that name. I'm a fair bit of meat into this interview. had several interactions at the same time as the Mothman sightings
Yeah.
with this odd prophetic individual, sometimes referred to as like one of the grinning men.
Yeah.
He always had a big smile and would come and talk to Woodrow about just strange, somewhat prophetic things about how they're an alien. And this was all going on simultaneously as the Mothman. And Keel ended up investigating both and actually becoming very close to Woodrow.
Right.
But I always like to ask people who are interested in the Mothman topic what their thoughts are on Indrid, because
Now I'll have to be Googling and getting in a rabbit hole
there's
about that.
there's a rabbit hole there, and it
Indrid
can get
cold.
scary. Like, this is one of the ones I don't really bring up with my wife, Ellie, because Indrid Cold freaks Ellie out a little bit.
Yeah, he looks freaky.
Because they like intercold or that type of entity are the kind that'll just show up in your bedroom. You'll just wake up and it's just smiling over you.
Wait, no, the scariest part is
I just got goosebumps, seriously. Ugh.
they almost always initiate in with, "Do not be afraid, I will return," and that's scary as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they might not even move their mouth. You just hear the psychic phrase in your head. It's pretty creepy.
Well, I also spoke to Vic about this, and he actually does the same thing, which I don't know if he's. I grew up Methodist. I'm not Catholic, and I find myself buying rosaries, buying saints, and I have them all hanging on my thing, and it's just odd. Like, and I have Saint Benedict's on my door, all like my doorknobs
Right.
and stuff, because I don't want him to come visit me at night or
Smart
anybody
plan, by the
else.
way.
Yeah, I do that, and I mean, I feel better when I do it.
Oh yeah, like I keep St. Jude medals around the house, and when I
Absolutely.
travel, I take them with me. Because I mean, St. Jude is also considered the patron saint of lost causes, and that's definitely what I need in my life. That's who's going to come help me
Yeah.
out.
Right. Well, I mean, if you ask the Catholic Church, I mean, they've been combating the paranormal for 2,000 years. They'll that's what they'll claim, all the way back. So I mean, they have this ritual about how to handle it, and I think that when, if you think about it, like if you think about a Catholic priest, you have an idea in your head about what a Catholic priest will do if they're going to show up to deal with a problem. Name any other denomination, there's an air of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Maybe confident you might be able to handle, but there's of what it's going to be, and I think that there is a reassurance of that, and I think that's why people are drawn to something like that.
Yeah. I have no idea why. I just, yeah.
That's my vibe on it. I think that's the reason why people are drawn to it. I also just think, I'm just saying.
It's been a tick since we talked about exorcism.
Right. But I think that's what it is. I think that there's a foundation there that I think that makes people reassured in that methodology.
Oh yeah.
I think there are similar examples of people that have described stories of other world religions that do similar things to some of the other major world religions too.
Oh yeah, in Western culture, no, the archetype is the Catholic.
Yeah.
That is the exorcist archetype. Now, like if we're looking into African cultures, you have like specific sorts of shamans. If we look into like Eastern cultures, there's a specific methodology for Taoists. But in Western culture, it's the Catholic exorcist.
Right. But
Yeah, I got a Saint Benedict. I got the whole
Good.
whole deal.
good. just the whole collect.
I
just the whole,
do.
just to
They're
get 'em all.
outside, inside, everywhere.
So, so what are some of your final thoughts on the Mothman in general? Like some of your takeaways. Like what's your thoughts on it? Wrapping it up.
I definitely would be open to see you again if you're listening.
Oh, I hope that would be awesome.
If Mothman's a fan,
Yes.
And I'm gonna photograph your ass.
That's good.
That's my
That's
final
good.
thought.
either way, this has been a
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
interview. I never get to talk to people who've seen Mothman.
Yeah.
I think that's really super cool. To finally met somebody that actually had an actual sighting. Because we were breaking down some things we were going to do to do a deep dive on Mothman. And Vic's reading Keel. I'm watching some of the more modern documentaries that have been on it, trying to see where we're at now. And there's this gap of just modern sightings that people talk about. I'm serious. I mean, there's just this we know there are sightings, and nobody talks about it in a lot of the latest modern work. And so, super refreshing to get your take on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of scary to talk about things, and that's why I appreciate Vic, because you don't talk about this stuff.
No, you
with,
do not.
You know, with other people.
You can't talk about it with normies. You can't. I just think.
know, yeah.
I'm always happy to be the strange ear you can lean on.
They look at you really odd, and I'm busting because I love the stuff that I see and have experienced, but some people just don't get it.
They don't get it. And they're lost
Yeah.
too. They're
Absolutely.
lost for not getting it.
Yes.
So, Vic, what about you?
This has been a fascinating discussion. I mean, I always like talking about this subject. I've been trying to really build my knowledge on it here recently because I'm working towards a theory. I'm slowly getting there. You've probably felt something unfolding the last several times we talked about this sort of thing. But I don't want to go into it until you get a little more concrete. But thank you. You've definitely added on to my what I'm building towards.
Yeah. I think my final thought on it is takeaways again is there are people that have more of these modern sites, and I think there is more of a conversation than just what happened in 1967. You know, I think that there is more than that to be said.
We're a little mentally stuck in Point Pleasant, and we need to move
Yes,
past that.
I 100% agree. And you just Google it, and then just all of them just pop up, and they're all the same. They're retellings of the story of the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, and maybe a few interviews of people, of their descendants, or some people that are older now.
There's more than that going on.
Right.
So, tell us in your guys' in the comments below. Put some of your guys' thoughts on the Mothman that you guys know. Are there other sightings of it outside of Point Pleasant that you guys find really interesting as well? Again, if you guys like this, don't forget to like it. Don't forget to leave us a review anywhere that if you guys can leave a review somewhere. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you guys can get notified whenever we put out new episodes. But until next time, guys, keep believing.
Because we'll keep listening.
All right, guys, we're going to slide into the Pillow Talk segment of this podcast. If you want to check out the rest of this awesome podcast, all you got to do is go over to our Patreon and sign up. For as little as $1 a month, you get the rest of this awesome podcast, as well as bonus episodes that we put up exclusively for our patrons. And boy, do we got a good one for you today.
This is going to get weird, guys.
Great.
It's going to get weird and maybe a little spicy.
Oh, a little spicy. If you guys are watching on our Patreon, I've got a little companion. I've got a little book here with me just to show you guys. So a little bit of background on this. So a couple weeks ago, we had EvilCon here in Evansville, and if you guys know, me and Vic are super huge nerds. And while we're walking around the convention, I stumbled upon probably the coolest thing that I've ever seen in my life.
He doesn't tell me what it is. He just tells me to go into the merch area and find the amazing thing. And I would know it when I'd see it. He wouldn't tell me what.